left everything. That's why the sannyasi is recognized when he left everything. Just a little danda and little bag on there. That's it. Then he recognized more to see how much is that. So Prabhupada, we cannot, like, it's like a very few people, like once in a 500 years somebody like Prabhupada born, not like every 50 years another Prabhupada born. So the one he did that, it's just we can't even, not even one little nail of Prabhupada we can do. No.
But I agree with you, Gulshan. It is better to live with less. To live with less, yeah, is better. Less is more.
Less is better.
Less is more.
And there, less and less and less. But anyway.
At the same time, I also thought that I'd read that sannyas doesn't have to mean, you know, you put your orange robes on and you walk around with nothing, like you don't own anything. I just thought it meant that you had renounced everything. So even somebody who was working in society, if they were completely surrendered to Krishna, then I think that could be a sannyas as well.
True, yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, we've talked about that before. It's not just wearing the saffron dress and carrying the danda, the stick.
Yeah.
But it's that mood of doing everything for Krishna, nothing for me. So that was Prabhupada said, my motto my whole life, even when he was a grihasta, is everything for Krishna, nothing for me.
Yes.
Not doing anything for our own personal sense gratification, but for Krishna's sense gratification, Krishna's pleasure. Prabhupada said that in the early days, he said that all my disciples are sannyasis, which included obviously family people and women and everything. He said they're all sannyasis because they're all fully surrendered, fully dedicated. Whatever Prabhupada asked, they would just do it. You know, even the, newly married family, if he said go to Africa and preach, they would just go and do it. It's crazy what they did. You know, they would do anything, you know, not just the saffron ones, but they're all like, he sent 3 newly married grihastas to England to preach. And that was Shamasundar and his wife Malati. That was Mukunda and Janaki, and Guru Das and Yamuna. And the 3 grihastas, right? And they did more than what sannyasis could do, you know. They actually met up with the Beatles, right? And then the Beatles became devoted, sort of, you know, very favorable to Krishna consciousness. George Harrison was the most favorable. I mean, they did so much service for the Hare Krishna movement. You know, they donated the estate that they have now, the Bhaktivedanta Manor, was donated by George Harrison, worth, you know, millions and millions and millions of dollars and everything. And like that, they did so much service, and they're grihastas. So they're definitely like sannyasis. You know, they're not considering their own enjoyment, just doing everything for Krishna. And that definition of sannyas is in the beginning of the 18th chapter, so we can look at that. I think it's verse number 2 or something like that. 18th chapter. What is the real meaning of sannyas? Yeah.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said that giving up all the activities that's based on material desire, it's what the great learned man called renounced order of life sannyasa. And giving up the result of activities is what the wise old renunciation tyaga.
Yeah. So that's what sannyas is. It's never talked about wearing saffron cloth and carrying a danda. But what it's saying is that giving up of activities that are based on material desire. So you're not doing any activities for your own enjoyment, but you can do all activities for Krishna's pleasure. You know, so for Krishna's pleasure, you can do and that's a spiritual desire to please Krishna. And a material desire is just to please ourselves. So a sannyasi doesn't have any desires to please himself. They just have desires to please Krishna. And that could be a brahmachari, could be a grihasta, could be a sannyasi, could be, you know, brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, sudra, like that. Doesn't matter what their material position is in society, but they're just doing everything to please Krishna. And then also, and then you're doing activities, right? You're doing activities, and the second part of it is to give up the results. So that's renunciation, that's real detachment. So you're doing your activities, say you're running a restaurant and you're making money, and you give it all to Krishna. You give all the money to Krishna, and that's renunciation. So a lot of people think that renunciation or vairagya means giving up the activities. You know, like I'm going to give up my job and go to the forest, like that. That's what Arjuna had in mind. This fighting work, kshatriya work, is very troublesome. I'm just going to go to the forest and not fight anymore. And he has an idea that this is what real renunciation, real detachment means. But what Krishna's saying here, detachment doesn't mean giving up the action. What detachment really means is giving up the results of the action. It's not giving up your activities or running away from your activities or stopping your activities, but it's just giving the results of your activities for Krishna's pleasure, like that. And if you do that, the beautiful result of that is you don't get a reaction. If you do the activity and you give the results to Krishna, you don't get a reaction. There's no karma. And we've talked about that. That's called akarma. If you give the results of your work to Krishna, then that's akarma. You don't get a reaction. You don't get a good reaction or a bad reaction. There's no reaction. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But in modern day society, people have that understanding, you know, you just got to give up your work, give up your activities. But no, that's not what spiritual life is actually about, according to Krishna. You can still continue your activities, but just giving the results to Krishna, and that frees you from the reaction and so many things. And Krishna's also pleased that you're doing something for his pleasure. It's like a loving exchange, you know, so and that way you progress in your bhakti also by giving something to Krishna. And that ties in with the third chapter, text 9. Third chapter, text 9. Whoever
But
finds that can read it out.
work has to be performed as sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work causes bondage in the material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duty for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Yeah. So that's the secret of work, to do your work for the pleasure of Vishnu, yajna, and then it's a sacrifice. And then it doesn't cause any bondage. Otherwise, if you do it for your own sake, then definitely you get bound up by that. But that's definitely a big misunderstanding. A lot of people think spiritual life means giving up your work, giving up your works and do not working, and they think that's spiritual. They think, oh, I give up my job and now I'm spiritually advanced. No, it's not what it means according to what Krishna's saying here. You continue your work, but you do it for his pleasure. So, and that the sign of doing it for his pleasure is you give the results
What
up
about the
for Krishna's
yogis?
pleasure.
Those who are yogis, they give up all that things. They're sitting in the Mount Everest or Ganges or so.
Yeah.
So, which category they fall in?
Well, it depends, you know, why are they doing that? Why did they give up their activities and why are they sitting all alone somewhere? Is it to get some recognition, some distinction, some prestige or whatever from the public, or was it to, you know, progress their relationship with God, you know? So it really depends case by case. It's really a case by case thing. But yeah, it's not recommended in Kali Yuga to do that. Not recommended. That's when Bharat Maharaj, he had trouble when he left his position as the king, and he went into the forest all alone, and that's when he ended up getting attracted to a deer, and he stopped all of his spiritual activities and just became attached to the deer, and then he fell in a well, empty well, and died, and then thinking about a deer, and he took birth as a deer. And it was recommended there that, you know, that was a mistake he made, was to leave the association of all the devotees where he was living. You know, in the city, he had so many Brahmana advisors and everything like that. And, you know, he went off track. He went off track. But because he was all alone, there was no one to bring him back on track. There was no one to bring him back on track. So, you know, there's definitely a danger of giving up your work in society and just trying to do everything by yourself. I mean, that's what they did in Satyuga. They would go all alone in the forest in Satyuga. But now in Kali Yuga, that kind of thing's not recommended, to do that meditation all alone in the forest and everything like that. And also in Satyuga, nearly everyone was doing that. So you're not really alone, because there's heaps of other people doing the same thing in the forest along with you. But now if you do that in Kali Yuga, you probably will be the only one. So you really will be alone like that. So, and the whole culture was set up to help that. Like there would be kings, you know, going around removing all the dangerous animals so there wouldn't be any dangers and stuff like that. And it was all set up for that. And there were so many fruits and nice things in the forest. If you try that in New Zealand forest, I mean, there's no food in the forest. None of the native trees produce any fruit or anything. So it's nice if you're in a forest where there's mangoes, and like where Gulshan's going, he could do that up there. There'd be all mangoes and bananas and jackfruit and all kind of nice things in there. But yes, it's generally not recommended. But yeah, staying away. I mean, the principle is to stay away from materialistic people. So that's why they would, when it talks about living in a solitary place, it is mentioned it's good to live in a solitary place. So what that means is basically living away from materialistic people. But if you're living in the association of devotees, then that also fits into that prescription of living in a solitary place, because it means you're living away from non-devotees that, you know, talking about nonsense, you know, just mundane gossip and idle talk and everything like that. So you're still fulfilling that criteria. You're away from materialistic people, but you're with devotees. Prabhupada said that's the ideal situation in Kali Yuga, is to live in the association of devotees. So whenever possible, although it's not always possible. I'm not able to do that at the moment. You know, many of us are not able to do that. So you just try to do the best you can like that. But but definitely we don't want to stop our work, our activities, but we just want to connect the results for Krishna's pleasure. Like, and I'm gardening here, right? That's work. And so work, I don't mean just paid work, working for money, not necessarily that what work means, but some kind of activity. You need to do some kind of, like Krishna says in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that you can't even maintain your body, Arjuna, unless you do some work. So everyone has to do some kind of work, either Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So now I'm working like a Vaishya and I'm producing food, but I make sure that I offer the food that I grow to the deities. So in that way, it's a sacrifice. So I'm doing all the work, and the work involves killing plants, killing animals, killing insects, killing so many things, which could be potentially bad karma stuff. But because I offer the results of the work, which is some fruits and vegetables or whatever, offer that to Krishna, then that gets purified. So then Krishna willing, I don't get any reactions for all the killing and everything that goes on and the activities like that. Does that make sense? Anyone want to say anything about any of that? All good? Okay. Let's offer respect to Prabhupada. Om Jnana-Timandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur-Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the shining torchlight transcendent knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances under his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita from chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 25. Another verse that Prabhupada quoted from many times. A lot of these verses are, because this is the central chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter is right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, the most confidential knowledge. So yeah, it's a lot of really important knowledge in this chapter, the 9th chapter. So most of these verses in the 9th chapter, Prabhupada spoke on many times or mentioned like that. So yeah, last week, just a little recap on that. Krishna's saying that he's the enjoyer and the master of all sacrifices. And if you don't recognize that, then you fall down. Then you fall down like that. So yeah, because the previous one was talking about worshipping the demigods. So yeah, that's not so good. If you just worship the demigods, if you don't worship Krishna, if you just do sacrifices for the pleasure of other persons, like the demigods, then eventually you'll fall down from that position, whatever position you're in, and you become degraded. It's very sinful, actually, very sinful to not recognize Krishna. It's not just an optional thing. Oh, if you want to worship Krishna or not, that's like optional. If you feel like it or you don't feel like it, or if you believe in Krishna or you don't believe in Krishna, it doesn't really matter. You believe in whatever you want to believe in. There's so much New Age hogwash. It's not matching up with what Krishna's saying here. Yeah, it's actually sinful if you don't worship Krishna. Why is that? We talked about it last week. Why? Why is it so important to recognize Krishna? Why is it saying here? He's saying those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. And this true transcendental nature means that he is the supreme person. He's the supreme person.
If you don't recognize him, you must be recognize someone else. That is wrong. Yeah. That's why you fall down. If you don't,
but why is it so important to acknowledge or recognize Krishna? What's so special about Krishna that we have to appreciate or recognize or be grateful for? Johnny said he's providing everything. He's maintaining us all, so if you don't recognize the person that's maintaining you and providing everything for you, that's sinful. Like if you're living in your parents' place and they're feeding you, clothing you, educating you, wiping your bum, putting food in your mouth, everything, and you don't even say thanks, mum and dad, then what kind of person you are? That's what Prabhupada would say, a rascal. A rascal. That someone's doing everything for you and you don't even have any appreciation or gratitude. Is that good or not? No, it's bad. It's very sinful. And then if it's all Krishna's energy, Krishna's property, and then we're taking that, using it for our own enjoyment, what do you call that? What do you call it if someone uses another person's property without their permission?
Cheating.
They're a thief. They're a thief. If you take someone else's property, then you're a thief. So if everything's God's property, Krishna's property, and you're taking it without his sanction, his permission, it's not the quota he's giving you, then that's sinful. And obviously a thief is a sinful person. So That's what is indicated here. If you don't acknowledge or recognize Krishna and be grateful for Krishna, you're taking all of his property, which he's happy to share, as the parents are happy to share their property with their kids. But at least they expect, you know, some respect and appreciation and gratitude, some acknowledgement, you know, at least every now and again. Oh, thanks, mum and dad, for giving me all this stuff. You know, I really appreciate that. You know, but if there's nothing at all, you never acknowledge or any gratitude or anything for the Supreme Father and Mother, you know, maintaining, providing everything, then that's really bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why it's so important to recognize Krishna?
He's the provider of everything.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's read this verse 25. Yanti deva vrata devan
Yanti deva vrata devam
petran yanti petra vrata
pitran yanti prita vrata
bhutani yanti bhuteja
bhutani yanti bhuteja
yanti madhyajino pimam
yanti madhyajino pimam. Those who worship the demigod will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ancestors go to ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and the spirit will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me.
Mm. Mm. So in modern society, what we often hear is that, oh, it doesn't matter who you worship. You worship whoever you want to worship, whoever you believe in. Everyone goes to the same place. Have you ever heard that before? That everyone goes to the same place? It doesn't matter what you do, that everyone goes to the same place. Does that match up with what Krishna's saying?
No.
Is Krishna saying here, whoever you worship, everyone goes to the same place?
No.
What Krishna's saying here, according to who you worship, that's where you're going to go. If you worship the demigods, you're going to go to the demigods. You're not going to go to Krishna if you worship the demigods. And if you worship the ghosts, you're going to go to the ghosts, where the ghosts are. You're not going to go to Krishna. You're not going to go to heaven or whatever like that. And if you worship the forefathers, then you'll go to the forefathers, you know. So according to exactly who you're worshipping, who you're meditating on, that what your goal is, that's where you're going to end up. Not that it doesn't matter what you do, everyone's going to mysteriously end up in the same place. No, it doesn't work like that.
If you see the plant for a lemon, you're not going to get mango out of it. You're going to get lemon only.
Yeah.
So simple as. You don't need a PhD to learn that. Whatever you see the plant, that's what the fruit would be. It's up to you.
Yeah.
You want the pomegranate? Yes, you're not going to get apple out of it, only pomegranate.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
But it's amazing how popular this foolish philosophies are, like this one that, you know, whatever kind of worship you do, everyone goes to the same place. And so many people get sucked in by this stupid ideas like that. We're not even thinking about, does it make sense? Is it logical or not? Like that, but so many people.
I just grew up with, well, when you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
From the atheist, you know, that's what my parents told me.
Of
You're
course,
just born
So
and then you die and then that's it. No wonder I was so stressed out all my life.
Yes. Yeah. But and amongst the Christians, whoever dies, they say, oh, they've gone to heaven. Oh, they've gone to heaven. Doesn't matter what they did, but they've gone to heaven. They say to everyone, oh, my uncle died, he went to heaven. My, nephew died, he went to heaven. They all, everyone went to heaven. Doesn't matter what they did or didn't do.
Hell doesn't exist. All in heaven.
Yeah. So it's very sentimental. What's that?
Because we weren't christened. My parents didn't christen us either. And my brother used to say to me, to make me cry, he used to say, "Oh, we don't even go to heaven. We go to a place called limbo." And that's because we're not christened. We end up in limbo. And I'm like, it used to really upset me all the time.
Yeah.
And now you go after that?
You just go to limbo.
Now you different, now you're Swamini. So now you know where you go.
You hope.
Of course.
Yeah, so many people, so many different beliefs, and it's very confusing. Everyone says different thing. 100 people will have 100 different beliefs, and like that, it's very confusing. But it best is to take the information from the source. Take the information from the source. And then we're going to get the absolute truth. That's what we want. The absolute truth is one, not many. So just saying, Bhakti Mala, better than hearing all these different opinions from so many different people, which is going to end up very confusing, better to take the knowledge from the ultimate authority. There's one supreme authority, whoever, the person that created everything, and that's Krishna. He knows what the actual truth is, and that's the absolute truth. And then there's no more doubts, no more doubts. So what is it saying here? It's giving several different options. Those who worship the demigods, they take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship me will live with me. So, there's people that talk about, traveling to the moon, right? Traveling, which are actually all these planets they're talking about there, and Mars and so forth. They're like heavenly planets, and they're talking about going there in a spaceship or whatever. That's actually not the right process if you want to go to one of these heavenly planets like the moon. The actual process is by doing this. If you worship the demigods, then you can actually go there. Like if you do the particular worship yagya for the moon god named Chandra, so he's a male, Chandra. If you worship Chandra and do the right rituals and everything, you can actually take birth on the moon. So no need for a spaceship to go there or whatever like that. That's a load of rubbish. You can't force your way in there. Well, that's not possible. But there is an actual process of going there, but it's this process. If you worship those particular demigods, then you can go to them. If you worship Indra, you could go to Indra. If you worship the sun god, you could go to the sun planet, and so forth. And if you worship Shiva, you could go to Shiva. If you worship Durga, you go to Durga, like that. So you have to know what the particular rituals of that worship are. They'll be mentioned there in the scriptures, how to worship each particular demigod. And if you follow that, then and you devote your life to that particular demigod, then you can actually take birth there. And like it's mentioned in the previous verse, you can live there for 10,000 years of the demigods and enjoy drinking somaras and have apsaras dancing around you and everything like that. So if that's what they want. And then, ancestors. So what does that mean? Worship the ancestors. In Southeast Asia, there's quite a few countries where they do ancestor worship. And Thailand and places like that, they worship the ancestors, Philippines or whatever, and the Buddhist countries and stuff.
Yeah.
And in India also, some people worship the ancestors. Not so common in the West, of course. So
Christian cemeteries are like we do cremation, like in India, we just burn that, put the ashes in the Ganges, see you later, next day back to work, look like average. But then these cemeteries are good, like time to time you visit, and then you just tell yourself you will be here one day, and then your egos just come to the ground, because you can see your dad's cemetery and the little plaque there, or your mom's, or anyone, and time to time you visit, and then it makes you realize you will be under the 2 meter of the ground one day. So in India, it's like we got no such thing. We can go to the cremation ground and see, oh, my dad was burned there, I'm going to be burned there. Nobody goes there. But cemeteries, we actually visit that. And then a lot of people, I've seen there's a cemetery Sandgate here. Sometimes I drive Uber. A lot of cars parked there. Maybe the Father's Day, they go and pay the respect, or maybe give it a once in a week to mother's grave, to the flower. But it's a good that to be there, recognize and say, we got to be there one day too. So,
but I mean, if you go to the cremation also, you can see that you're going to end up becoming ashes.
But we once after cremation in Hindu religion, we don't go to the cremation ground ever again until next person died.
Yeah, but sure. I know. But you're seeing the end result as ashes.
Yeah, of course.
Whether it's worm food or ashes or something like that.
That's the thing. It's good to
But
be
what
real.
this is talking about the ancestors is that there's a particular planet in the universe called Pitriloka. So that's the planet where the Pitris, the ancestors. Pitri means ancestor and Loka means planet. So, and that's where the pious ancestors live there, not the sinful ones. But those persons that have died, if they're pious, then they go to this very heavenly place. It's a very heavenly place. That's actually situated very low down in the universe, actually next to the hellish planets. But it's not a hellish place. It's not a hellish place. It's a very enjoyable place. A lot of sense gratification there. And actually Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, he lives there. His home is on this Pitriloka, the planet of the ancestors, but he works in the hellish planets. So Yamaraj is working in the Narakaloka. Narakaloka means the hellish planets. But his home is in the Pitriloka, the planet of the ancestors, right next door to the hellish planets. So how do you get to be there and where those pious ancestors are? If you have a son that performs different rituals called Pinda, called Shraddha. One of them is performed only once, and one of them is performed every year. So as long as you get yearly offerings from your son or grandson or whatever, offered to the departed ancestor, then they can live there for that duration of time that they're receiving those results of the sacrifice. And the special thing that's done, the sacrifice, is, you might have seen this in some temples, they'll have a picture of the person that died and they'll take it there into the temple, and then the food will be offered to Krishna, and then afterwards a plate of that food that's been offered to Krishna will be given to that ancestor. So it said that prasadam, when it goes to that ancestor, that purifies them of any sins and allows them to be eligible, qualified, to keep staying on that Pitriloka. So as long as they have a son that keeps sending them prasadam, basically they can stay there for that period of time, or some, grandson, great-grandson, whatever.
Like my dad passed away 20 years ago, and then we do, rituals and all that. So I don't know how long you have to do this. Like maybe my dad already rebirthed somewhere. He died in 2005. It's been 20 years. So how long you have to do the shraddha and things like this certain period of time, or like it been?
Well, no, it said they can stay in that heavenly place for as long as the offerings keep being sent to them. And when they stop, they obviously have to go somewhere else. Where they're going to go, I'm not sure. It depends on what they've done in the past or whatever.
Yeah, so like there's no such thing you have to do for first 5 years or 2 years or 7 years or 10 years or something like that. I mean,
no, I haven't heard it in that term. So I've just heard that as long as they receive the offerings, that's as long as they can stay there in that Pitriloka.
Have to do a less offering
place.
2 years only, and then eventually they're gonna move. If we keep offering that for 10 years, then they're gonna stay.
But they might go down to not such a good place after that, though, after they leave there. But it depends what each person did. What was I going to say about the ancestors? Yeah. So a question is, do devotees need to do that for their ancestors? No, we don't, because it's said that if someone in the family becomes a devotee, then 7 generations going backwards and 7 generations forward, they get liberated like that.
Yeah,
so
is a devotee.
automatically.
I'm still dirty. There's no way in the world my 7th generation can get through with that. No way. I'm still a mess.
Well, of course, I mean, of course, a devotee, a true devotee, never thinks they're a devotee. So, I mean, they might still do it. It doesn't mean they can't do it, but it's said you don't have to do it if you're a devotee. But you don't have to perform any other sacrifices other than the sacrifice to please Krishna, which is mainly in Kali Yuga, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the greatest sacrifice. So, as mentioned, if you please Krishna, then automatically everyone else is pleased. You don't have to separately try to please the ancestors and try to please the demigods, and you won't have enough time in the day to please everyone. But it's much more intelligent. Just try to please Krishna, and if Krishna's pleased because he's the root of everything, the source of everything, then automatically everything else gets sorted out. So that's sort of the faith of a devotee, that let me just worship Krishna, and automatically, my parents will get looked after, my kids will get looked after, and everything like that will automatically. I mean, I've seen that too, that my kids got plucked away from me at a very early age, and I've seen they got looked after. I've seen they got looked after. Not only, I mean, after death, I don't know what happens, but definitely in this life, I've seen how they got looked after. So, but that's what's mentioned. If you just serve Krishna and worship Krishna, please him, then he'll take care of everything. You don't have to worry about anything else.
Bhakti Mala, that whoever your brothers and sister, they are in the limbo, they will look after. Don't worry.
Yeah, so we should have that faith that Krishna will take care. Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask, when you said about the 7 generations behind and in front, when you said they get liberated, what does that mean? That liberation in that way, what does that mean?
Well, that's completely up to Krishna how he's going to do that over what period of time and everything.
Yeah.
So not necessarily at the end of this life they're all going back to Godhead, but it means in a very short time they're all out of here. Yeah, they're definitely going to get free from the material world, whether it takes 1 lifetime or 10 lifetimes, and whether it's merging in the Brahmajyoti or being on Krishna Loka. That's up to Krishna, but they're definitely going to get a lot better situation. They're definitely going upwards, onwards and upwards. They're not going downwards. They're going to go.
What about if they're atheists, though? They don't want to go.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. No, that doesn't matter.
But you're a devotee. You're 7. They're in the line of moksha. Doesn't matter.
Krishna can just smash their atheistic views through a bit of suffering here and there, and then they change their ways and become Krishna conscious, maybe in the next life or in 2 lives or whatever. But Krishna can make some arrangement that they turn them around. He doesn't normally interfere. If someone wants to forget Krishna, he doesn't normally interfere. But if there's a devotee in the equation, then that changes Krishna's way he deals with things completely, because he loves his devotees and he'll do anything to please them, because the devotees are doing anything to please Krishna, right? So Krishna reciprocates. He'll do anything to please the devotee. And if he knows his devotee's worried about his parents or worried about his children or whatever, then he'll just take care of them. He'll just take care of them.
You have to be a pure devotee.
Johnny, you have to come a bit closer. You can't do this. This is not a respectful way to.
It's but like you're worried about your mother or father, Krishna will take care. Just tell him to come up. That's it. He'll take care. No worries. You come up, you don't need to worry about it.
When we
Just
when we say devotees, though, does that mean you have to be a pure devotee for Krishna to do that, or someone trying to be a devotee?
But even you're trying to be a devotee, Krishna wants to encourage you to become
Yeah,
more of a pure devotee. So
yeah,
definitely to support you just being able to focus on Krishna consciousness, he'll remove whatever, is disturbing your mind.
yeah,
So you're worried about your past generations or future generations. So Krishna will take care of them. So you can develop your Krishna consciousness without, any anxieties. Definitely. But obviously the more pure you are, then it's more powerful. But still, even the beginning devotee is, Krishna's going to start interfering with not only your life, but other lives around you. Definitely. He doesn't normally interfere. He just leaves it up to your karma. You got good karma, you'll get the result of your good karma. You got bad karma, you'll get the result of your bad karma. But chant Hare Krishna once, or take prasadam once, or pick up a book or whatever, then things start to change. Krishna interferes. Like it's mentioned, you clap in front of the deities, then change the lines on your hands. It means your destiny is changing. So that's powerful.
Like seeing this purport from Bhagavatam 7, Cantor, chapter 2,
Yeah.
text 55. So here Prabhupada is saying the real fact is that if the Supreme Personality of Godhead protects one, even though one be motherless and fatherless, one can be maintained by the goodwill of the Lord.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if the Supreme Lord does not give one protection, one must suffer in spite of the presence of his father and mother. Another example is that sometimes a patient dies in spite of a good physician and good medicine. Thus, without the protection of the Lord, one cannot live with or without parents.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the ultimate, the point ultimately there is the main criteria is having the protection of the Lord, not having protection of society or parents or medical or money or whatever. That's not real protection. If you got the protection of the Lord, even if you got none of those other things, you're okay. And if you got everything else except for the Lord's protection, basically you're up the creek. You're stuffed. So yeah, the main thing is to have the protection of the Lord. And if you've come to Krishna consciousness, you've got that protection of the Lord. So we don't really have to worry about the ancestors or so many things. But however, Advaita Acharya, for example, it's mentioned that he worshipped his ancestors. Did rituals for the benefit of his ancestors. Because it is a duty. It is a duty of the son to do these rituals for the parents. That was actually the whole purpose in Vedic culture of having a son. Why were they so desperate in Vedic culture to have a son? Was because it was the son's responsibility that when the parent died, to do these rituals to, lift them up out of any hellish position that we might fall into after death. Because it is a possibility, definitely, that we've done sinful activities and we might have to get the reactions for that, which is going to some hellish place. So that's why in Vedic culture has that the duty is there for the son has to, do these rituals to deliver the parents from any hellish places. So, but it's interesting that part of this ritual of worship, serving the ancestors was to feed the brahmanas. You're supposed to feed, devotees, feed brahmanas. And Advaita Acharya chose to feed Haridas Thakur, chose to feed him. And Haridas Thakur said, "Why are you feeding me? I'm not a brahmana. I'm a Malecha, who's born Muslim family, cow killing family and everything like that. Why are you feeding me? You should feed brahmanas." And he said something like, Advaita Acharya said something like, "Feeding you, Haridas, is like feeding 10 million brahmanas." Because he's like a pure devotee, chanting the holy name. So interesting. you know, so not that we have to do these rituals, but you know, it's an opportunity to serve Krishna. You know, we can feed the devotees and do all these kind of things. It's very nice. And but the main focus of a devotee, of course, is to worship Krishna, as mentioned here. Those who worship me will live with me. But sometimes, you know, devotees might do something for an ancestor or whatever. But even that will be done in Krishna consciousness. It's no big deal like that. And then it's mentioning worship the ghosts and spirits. So that's definitely there. You probably know about that. We don't have to say too much about that. But so if someone has been very sinful, then they won't get another human body straight away, They'll be kept in their subtle body because of engaging in sinful activities. The punishment may be that they stay in a ghostly form. Also, if someone's committed suicide, that can be a result of committing suicide, that you had a body and you took it away, so we're not going to give you another one. You know, like if your dad gave you the keys for his car and then you went and smashed his car, he's probably not going to give you the keys very quickly again. You know, you won't be given another car. So like that, you had the body and you wrecked it, you destroyed it, then you're not going to be given another one. So it'll be for some time. That's a kind of punishment where the soul is just in a subtle body, no gross physical body. They tend to be very frustrated beings because they want to eat, but they've got no hands. They want to have sex, but there's no genitals. They want to, you know, they can't fulfill any of their desires. So they have desires, but they don't have the mechanism of the body to fulfill the desires. So that's why they tend to take over persons that have a physical body so they can enjoy through that body, through the other person's body, like that. And but it's just a temporary situation. It's not a permanent situation. But some ignorant people, that's definitely people in the mode of ignorance would be worshipping the ghosts and spirits. See, people in the mode of goodness, it's mentioned in another verse, people in the mode of goodness worship the demigods. People in the mode of ignorance worship the ghosts and spirits. People in the mode of passion, who do they worship? I think in the mode of passion they worship like politicians and, you know, powerful people and stuff like that. People like that, you know, just other materialistic people that they idolize if they're in the mode of passion. So there's different modes of worship. So depending on what mode you're in, goodness, passion, or ignorance, then your tendency is to worship these different personalities. And if you worship Krishna, well, that's transcendental. That's transcendental. That's even beyond mode of goodness. Okay, so let's read the purport. Bhaktimala, do you want to start?
If mine might be a bit different because I'm on the beta base. I don't have the books. But,
that's right. Just let's try it out, see?
Yeah. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Dasha Purnamashi. These are vividly described in the fruitive activities portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pitta planets by performing a specific yagna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishacha. Pishacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt.
There you have it, Bhakti Mala. Don't have to
Yeah.
worry. Without a doubt, go to Krishna
Without a
Loka.
doubt.
Without a doubt. No worries.
It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pitas achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyoti. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect of that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Woohoo!
So there you have it. It's that simple. Just chant Hare Krishna. Go back to Godhead. Prabhupada said many times that Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple-hearted and complicated for the crooked. So we should try to be very simple-hearted. That's all we have to do. Just chant Hare Krishna. We can go back to Godhead. But if we're very crooked in our heart, very complicated in our mind, then, it's, I have to do something more. I have to do more things. I have to become a pure devotee and blah, blah, blah. And
So I have a question then.
yeah.
So then what?
She's very complicated, see? She's not accepting what I just said, Chant Hare Krishna, go back to God.
Saying
Ask us.
I want to keep it simple.
Okay.
But then why people are complicating, saying, oh, you do this, you study this Shastra, you do this, you do that. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy now. Why do 100 other things and just it's like, oh, I have to study that now. I have to do this now. I have to do that.
I would say studying Prabhupada's books is helping us to keep chanting Hare Krishna. Because as actually Prabhupada mentions very interestingly in the purport, towards the end, is that unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live. Because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyoti. The Krishna conscious movement is therefore distributing this sublime information to the entire human society, to the effect that simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. So it's saying there that many people have no information of these sublime subjects, sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live. So I'd say the philosophy, that tells us about Vaikuntha, about the spiritual world, that Krishna lives in Vaikuntha with his gopas and gopis and Nanda and Yashoda Mata and the cows and the peacocks, and he wears a yellow dhoti and has a peacock feather in his hair, and he looks very beautiful, Shama Sundar, and he plays the flute and calls the gopis and steals butter and yogurt, and all these pastimes and that help to attract us to wanting to go back to Godhead. One of the main problems is that we have no interest to go back to Godhead because we don't even know about back to Godhead. We don't know about the spiritual world. That's why we just want to stay here. We would just want to stay in the material world, or we might have, if we're lucky, we might have heard about the heaven and we want to go to heaven. But hardly anyone knows anything about a spiritual realm which is beyond the material world, where there's no birth, old age, disease, and death, where you can live eternally and have very joyful, blissful pastimes with Krishna and all of his devotees. And like that, people don't have this information. So I would say, that apart from chanting Hare Krishna and going back to Godhead, that's one thing to help us on the road back to Godhead, is to be reading Prabhupada's books and hearing this philosophy That's why we have these weekly, soul searching sessions to help us keep focused on the goal. Our goal is to go back to Godhead. How are we going to get there? Yeah, chanting Hare Krishna is the main thing, but you have to keep that picture of where you want to go. Where do you want to go? You want to go to heaven? Okay, there's a path for that. Do you want to go to where the ghosts are? There's a path for that. Do you want to go where the ancestors are? There's a path for that. And if you want to go back to Godhead, we have to know what back to Godhead is.
So then within the Godhead, then it becomes like, oh, you want to go to Dwarka, you want to go. So then obviously then you have to study more and more and more because you don't know where, what, and how to get there.
At least you have to hear enough to develop an attraction. It has to be an attraction. I mean, like, why do we go to visit India? Because there's an attraction to go to India. How did you get an attraction to go to India? Because you heard about Mayapur. You heard about Vrindavan. You heard about Govardhan Hill. You heard about Radha Kund. Or you heard about, there's a big temple in Mayapur, the planetarium, Universal Planetarium, and you heard about Panchatattva, beautiful big Panchatattva deities there. You heard about Radha Shamasundar and the Asta Sakis there. You heard about something. Or, you want to go to Fiji because you heard about they've got the best mangoes there and they've got coconuts and it's always 30 degrees and they got beautiful beaches. So the point is that you develop an attraction for some particular place because you've heard about it, right? You've heard about that. Like Gulshan's heard about Cairns is nice and warm and it's not going to be cold there. And, like that, it's going to be a good climate and everything. So because he's heard about it and he's going there, I guarantee if he'd never heard about Cairns, he wouldn't go there, right? So first you have to hear about some particular place or a subject. Then by hearing about it, you develop an attraction to go there, right? And then, okay, I've got an attraction to go there. Now, how do I go there? That's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I just mentioned on last Saturday that I've been reading this book by Sanatana Goswami called Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and it mentions this one cowherd boy from Vrindavan named Gopakumar, and he met a guru there in Vrindavan who gave him this special mantra, and he said, this mantra, you just chant this mantra and it'll fulfill all of your desires. So when he meets someone and that person tells him about like Indraloka, and then he chants his mantra, the mantra takes him there to Indra's planet. And then if he chants the mantra there, if he chants the mantra to go to Brahmaloka, where Lord Brahma lives, the mantra takes him there. And then if he wants to go to Shiva Loka, the mantra takes him there. And then he wanted to go into the Brahmajyoti, and the mantra took him there. And then, into Vaikuntha Loka, and the mantra took him there. So that's the process. If you chant the mantra, powerful mantra, it will take you upwards, 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 upwards. But the first thing is you have to know, where do you want to go? No, where do you want to go? Otherwise, the mantra is not going to take you anywhere if you don't have any goal. So you've got to have a goal in your mind. Where do I want to go? And the only way you're going to get that in your mind is if you hear about it. That's how you get something in your mind. You hear about it. How did Rukmini get it in her mind that she wanted to marry Krishna? Because she just heard about Krishna. He's so beautiful. He's so famous. He's so wealthy. He's so strong. He's so renounced. Like that, he loves the devotees so much. And then she just developed a determination. I just want to marry Krishna. So yeah, hearing about Krishna is very important. That's why Shravanam is the first of the 9 processes.
Well, I guess.
Then Kirtanam.
Yeah,
chanting.
I guess.
That's all we need to do. Just hearing and chanting is enough.
I guess even getting faith to chant the Maha Mantra will come only. I mean, you would have started chanting only through hearing it.
Yeah. Why did you start chanting Hare Krishna? Because you heard about it from someone that if you chant Hare Krishna, it can make you happy, chant and be happy. That can take away your anxieties. It'll make you peaceful, free you from stress. It'll cure all your problems and blah, blah, blah. You know, so even to chant, you need to hear about that. And, you know, to keep our faith in chanting, because one thing to start chanting, but how do you keep chanting for 1 year, for 2 years, for 10 years, for 20 years, for 50 years, for as long as you live? You need to keep the faith. So how do you keep the faith strong? And is by hearing about the glories of the holy name. So you need to, in the books, you'll also be reading about the glories of the holy name. Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I read some verses that blew my mind about the holy name. It said that one of the verses said that just by chanting the holy name once can liberate, if it comes on the tongue of even a dog eater, even a dog and a pig eater, one of the lowest persons, even if it comes on their tongue once, Jiva Spashe Achandale, then Sabare Udare, it just delivers them. So just even coming once on the name of a dog eater, even a really low class person, they're going to become completely liberated. Just Ek Krishna Name Kare, Sava Papak Shaya, destroys all their sins. Just by coming on their tongue once, all the sins of the person's done in millions of lifetimes is destroyed. And when you hear things like that, it just makes you think, wow, this holy name is really far out. It's really powerful, really special.
Makes you do things that only once, then why do we doing the years and years? You're doing for 28 years. It's only once. That's it. I'm done.
This reminds me of that story of Ramanujacharya and his disciples, right? This is like what we are doing again and again. Ramanujacharya and those fish, remember? He gave that prasadam to the fish.
Oh, that's another one. I thought you were talking about his guru.
Which one is that one? Guru one?
As Ramanujacharya's guru said, I'm going to give you one secret mantra, but don't tell anyone. This mantra is so powerful, it can give any person liberation. But don't tell anyone, it's secret mantra. Okay, so he gets the mantra from his guru, and then he goes out on top of the building and calls out loudly the mantra that everyone can hear. And then the guru's really angry and said, I told you the secret mantra. And the Ramanuja said, yeah, I'm sorry, Guru Maharaj, I can go to hell, no problem. But when you said this mantra can give everyone person liberation, then I said, I have to tell everyone because it can let them be liberated. If I go to hell because I disobeyed your order, I may go to hell, but let everyone get liberated because you said this mantra is so powerful, it can give one liberation. So it's like that. Very powerful, yeah. But yeah, the hearing is, this is how we develop an attraction to chant Hare Krishna. This is how we develop an attraction for going back to Godhead.
This thing was that fish, they all ate the prasadam and they went immediately.
So another pastime was that Ramanuja was walking with some of his disciples around a lake, and then he was eating some prasadam, and some of that prasadam he threw in the lake, and some fish ate the prasadam, and they immediately got their spiritual forms with 4 arms, Vishnu Dutas. They transformed from their fish bodies. The soul transformed into its original spiritual form with 4 arms, and they just lifted off up into the spiritual world, got liberated. And then some of the disciples, they looked very confused, and they said, well, Guru Maharaj, we're eating the same prasadam like every day, so why haven't we become liberated?
It's like Gulshan asking, why am I chanting so much?
And he said, because
you don't need to do it for years and years. He said,
said that the fish weren't making any offenses, but you all are making offenses. So you are not getting that instant liberation. So yeah, the fish, even though they're in very ignorant bodies, but one benefit is they're not committing any offenses. Whereas in our human body, because we've got a big brain and we misuse it in ways we shouldn't, that we make different offenses there. Like it said, the 10 offenses. So the first offense to blaspheme the devotees, Second offense, to consider the names of demigods to be equal to or independent of Vishnu. Third offense, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Like that. So we make offenses, then it's a bit of an anchor, just slows us down a bit like that, but still getting purified. Actually, I was asked that question about that, about the whole, if we're making offenses to the holy name, and the actual recommendation is just to keep chanting. Even if you're making offenses to the holy name, keep chanting the holy name. That's the only recommendation. And just by the mercy of the holy name, eventually we can hope that we can get free from offenses. But we have to try. I mean, the holy name is very powerful, and definitely the holy name wants to help us. So we just have to keep chanting, and then the holy name will purify us. And then at the same time, we should make an effort to stop committing offenses. So but definitely we shouldn't think, oh, I'm making offenses, so I better stop chanting. No, don't. That's the wrong way to deal with it. Don't ever stop chanting. There's no reason to ever stop chanting. No matter how sinful we think we are, no matter how offensive we think we are, but the prescribed process is to keep chanting in any condition. There's 3 kinds of chanting. That's called Shuddhanam. Shuddhanam means the pure name. That means you're chanting in love of God. So if you're chanting in the Shuddhanam, then you're going to keep chanting. Because at that point, you'll be like Rupa Goswami, saying that what use is having one tongue? How can I relish the nectar of the holy name with only one tongue? If I had millions of tongues and billions of ears, then I could really enjoy chanting the holy name. So that's how much taste, rasa, he had, that he wished he had more than one tongue and more than 2 ears, because he was just really relishing chanting the holy name. So that's called Shuddhanam, the pure name, chanted in love of God. And when you chant like that, then tears come out of your eyes, and sometimes you fall down on the ground, and all the hairs on your body stand up, and everything, your voice chokes up and everything. And then there's Namabas. Namabas means that's a reflection of the holy name. So that's compared to, Abas means like just when the sun is about to rise up. It hasn't come into view yet on the eastern horizon, but the first rays of the sun have come. You can see the rays of the sunshine, but you can't see the sun yet. But it's not dark anymore. It's not dark anymore, but it's not fully, the sun is not there yet, but it's just about to come. So that's called Namabas. So that means that you're trying to get rid of the offenses. You know what the offenses are, and you're trying not to do them, those 10 offenses. So you're making your best efforts to not commit offenses. So you're not yet chanting in the pure name and love of God, but at the same time, you're trying to stop committing offenses. So you're just on the edge between offensive chanting and offenseless chanting. And then there's Nam Aparad. So Nam Aparad means you're making offenses. And at that stage of making offenses, and you don't care about that you're making offenses. So it's really a bit careless. You not really trying to stop making those offenses. And there's Nam Aparad, Nam Abas, and Shuddhanam. 3 stages.
It starts with Nam Aparad.
Generally, yeah. Generally. So yeah, whatever stage we're in, we should just keep chanting. And even if we are making offenses, then try to stop doing them. And it says it's also considered an offense to be inattentive while chanting. And it said this is the mother of all the other offenses. So this is good to know. So the mother of all offenses means that all the other offenses come from this one. So what is this one they're all coming from? Is being inattentive. So when you're not paying attention, this is when all the other offenses can pop up. To blaspheme devotees, disobey the orders of the spiritual master, consider the holy name to be imagination, give some interpretation of the holy name, like that. All these other ones can come up when we're making this one offense of being inattentive. So if we try to concentrate, that's going to solve all the problems. If we can just somehow give our full attention, get to the point where we give our full attention to the chanting, concentrate on the holy name, and not let the mind be a monkey and go off here and there. Of course, it's trying to do that. That's the difficulty, is to try to catch the mind and just keep it hearing the holy name. But we should strive to, and that's what namabhasa is. Even you're not successful, that's okay, but you're trying to. You're trying to chant attentively. You're trying to concentrate like that. Then Krishna will help you, because he's seeing that you are trying to do the proper job, trying to chant properly like that. So he'll help. Like the saying is, God helps those that help themselves. So we have to try to help ourselves first, and then God will help us. Does anyone want to say anything about any of that? Okay, so we'll leave it at that. And next week's verse is the famous prasadam verse, offering our food to Krishna. Yes, with love, offering with love, offering with love. And that's the bhakti tree. That's what the bhakti tree is about. Offering with love.
And bhakti tree is going in the loss.
Financially in the loss.
Yes.
Financially in the loss.
I don't know about spiritually, but financially it's in the loss.
Okay.
So I don't know. Well, up to the higher authorities, are they running?
Yeah. But I mean, it's difficult times. I think a lot of food places will be going in a loss around the world at this particular point in time.
You know what? Even the temple owned the building still in the loss. If you have to pay the rent, can you imagine?
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
Even own the building.
But I mean, all around the world, I think a lot of food places and so many places are closing.
Like, okay, a restaurant support the temple. Here is the temple supporting the restaurant.
No, but I mean, it's a bit unfair, because I know for many years the restaurant was supporting the temple.
Well, many years it is not supporting. For last 3 years, as per the higher authority, they say last year was loss. Again, this year also 6 months gone, they say loss. I said, okay, fine. I don't know the books, but that's what they say. I haven't gone through the accounts, but that's what the higher authority. And I said, well, what can I say? I'm a small fish.
Yeah, but I mean, from a spiritual perspective, that's one of the purposes of our movement, is to distribute prasadam. And in the early days, Prabhupada was distributing prasadam for free. So he's not considering this as costing money or whatever like that. It's a part of the service, like this next verse we're going to read. That it's a very important part of our whole process to distribute prasadam. And this is how we attract people. I mean, if you ask people, how did you come to Krishna consciousness? Probably 9 out of 10 would put up their hand that it was because of the prasadam.
Yeah.
Like that how they came to Krishna consciousness. I mean, most of the people I know, it's through prasadam, like that. So it's a very powerful way to spread Krishna consciousness through prasadam. That was, I think, one of the biggest disasters in the Auckland Yatra, was when they closed the restaurant, and they never reopened it again. It's like looking at nearly 30 years after. They used to have queues of people lining up to get prasadam, And then when it closed, and they never got it together to open up another one. So, and it's a population of more than 1 million people in Auckland, and don't even have one, restaurant to distribute prasadam. It's a real disaster. So Prabhupada really wanted us to pump out the prasadam. So whether we're making money out of it or not is secondary. That's a secondary point. But the primary point is to, Krishna wants us to distribute prasadam. It's very important. What kind of movement are we? I mean, the movement was based on chanting Hare Krishna on the streets, distributing books, and distributing prasadam. And if we don't chant the holy name on the streets anymore, we don't distribute books anymore, and don't distribute prasadam anymore, what's left of the Krishna conscious movement? We say, oh, it's too expensive. But no, that's our mentality is a bit screwed up, because what have we been reading? That Krishna owns everything. He's the richest person. He owns everything. It's not really, we don't have to worry about finances too much. If that's happening, then there's something wrong. We're doing something wrong. We should go back to basics again. Go back to basics and get the basics right again. And then maybe the finances will also come right. It's not the finances first and then Krishna consciousness comes later. It's Krishna consciousness comes first and the finances come later. The finances will automatically be there if Krishna consciousness is there. And but like I said also, I mean, it is a difficult time. People are struggling financially, and obviously they're not going out to restaurants so much anymore. So I mean, that's understandable. So you just have to batten the hatches and just try to keep afloat. So yeah, I don't think any businesses can expect to be doing super profitable at this point in time, unless they're trying to sell some poisonous vaccines or something, and then they'll be making a lot of money. The only ones that are doing really well at this particular point in the time are the real crooks. The real crooks are doing really well from, doing all the crazy stuff. But, honest people are really struggling at this particular point in time. But that's just part of the material world. There's always these kind of times. But this kind of time is good for our Krishna consciousness. We have to cry out to Krishna, save us. Isn't it? Whenever a devotee is in difficulty, what does a devotee do? Call out to Krishna. Krishna, save me, Krishna. So yeah, we can always see the positive in every situation.
Well, good luck on your travels, Gulshan.
Thank you.
I hope it all goes well.
But like Gulshan said, he doesn't have any worries. He's got no possessions, so you don't have to worry about anything, Gulshan.
That's it.
You still be tuning in for class?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, should be okay. But depends if I've got the right signals. Like depends. I don't know how far I go and if I'll be in the middle of jungle. If I don't get the signals, different story. But I'll try to be in the class on Thursday.
All right.
Yeah, all the best with your travels.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Thank
I'll
you.
speak